Number 1. In my room. This happened when I was 15 years old. My dad had bought a small house that was a bit more rustic than I would have liked. Yeah, I got my own room. But the house had a wood-burning stove, rather than a furnace, and it absolutely didn't have any air conditioning. But it did have cable. Priorities, right? Well, living there could be quite the ordeal. The summers were brutal, and without air conditioning they were downright unbearable. I'm a night person anyway, but I found myself having to stay up as late as possible, hoping it would cool off so I could go to sleep. Even with a fan in my room, it didn't help very much. I often found myself lying on my bed, covered in sweat, reading, or trying to do something to get my mind off of the heat. Our house was a little strange. On the bottom floor, we had the kitchen, living room, and a dining room. Also on the bottom floor, but in the back of the house, was my bedroom. It was the only bedroom on the bottom floor, and the window literally gave me no view outside of the house, since it was built right against the side of a hill. So I looked out the window and I saw, yeah, you guessed it, a hill. There was about 3 or 4 feet between my window and the hill. The night this happened, I guess it was about 2 in the morning. I'd watched all the normal late-night TV shows, which back then consisted of wrestling and cheap horror anthologies. I went into my room and began reading a horror novel. After a while, that wasn't very entertaining anymore. I just decided to go ahead and turn out my light, and lay in bed and think for a little while. As I was laying there, I began to hear the dogs next door barking. It always aggravated me that people don't seem to be able to train their dogs well. At least the next door house was far enough away that it really wasn't that big of a bother. I was not ready to go to sleep anyway. And when I was, I guess I could always just put a pillow over my head. After a while, I decided I'd actually try sleeping on the floor. I figured it would be much cooler and therefore much more comfortable. Lying on the floor felt like heaven compared to the hot bed, and I actually began drifting off to sleep. Something then woke me up. I wasn't sure what it was, but then heard a rustling sound outside, and decided it was probably a groundhog or something like that. I began to doze off again. This time, I knew that I had fallen asleep. I thought I heard some more noises and was pretty irritated. I mean, the damn dogs had finally shut up. Why did there have to be more noises? I took my pillow, folded it over my head, and did my best to just fall asleep. The next thing to bother me wasn't a sound, however. I was laying right next to my bed, so I was in contact with the bed. I felt the bed move, as if someone had jumped on it or something. My first 2 thoughts were my imagination or a ghost. Yeah, I believed in ghosts back then. But when I took the pillow off my head and peered over the side of the bed, I saw a strange man crouched down on my bed. The man looked as surprised to see me as I was to see him. He had broken into our house, and probably thought my bedroom was empty since I was on the floor. He recovered from his fright a lot quicker than I did, however, and came after me. I got up, and he grabbed me and held me from behind. He had a knife against my neck, and said if I didn't want a gash in my neck, I'd keep my mouth shut. The guy gagged me, tied me face down on the bed, and that scared me even more. I thought he was going to kill me or something. He then went about robbing the house, and obviously he did a very good job of it, because he didn't wake my family up. Hell, I don't know how long I was tied up there. I knew it was a while after he left. My parents found me in the morning and untied me. It turns out 7 houses on the road were robbed that night. For me, though, the fear that sticks with me is just seeing someone seemingly appear out of nowhere on my bed. Number 2. Umbrella Man. I'm writing this story while sitting in a very nicely air-conditioned room. Back when I was a teenager, air conditioning was much less common than it is nowadays. My family was pretty poor, so we were not able to afford it. So when we got deep into the summer, it became very, very difficult to get comfortable in the house. Even more, it became nearly impossible to fall asleep. It actually got so bad that it was often hotter inside the house than it was outside. So at night, to cool off, and to wear myself down so I could sleep better, I began going for long walks. While we didn't live in a very rural community, it was still a pretty quiet town. Occasionally, I might see another person strolling around in the middle of the night, but that was very rare. Mostly, it was just me, walking back and forth, and up and down, all the streets of the town. Occasionally, I'd walk along the gravel on the side of the roads that led out of town. More and more, my walks would take me further and further away from the house. Now, I began taking this road that I really enjoyed walking by. There was an overpass that was put up over a forest in which a train track ran through. It was nice to look at the trees, but honestly, I never saw a train drive by it. One night, when I was walking over the overpass, I stopped and leaned on the railing. We had a nice wind going that night, so it was nice to watch the trees blow in the breeze. So I was leaning there when I saw someone walk out from under the overpass. He was dressed very strangely for the summer. He was wearing a black suit, but that wasn't what caught my eye. There was not a cloud in the sky. It was the middle of the night, but the man had an open umbrella resting on his shoulder. And if you think that is weird, well, prepare yourself for this. He was skipping along on the train tracks, and occasionally he would do a little dancing and hop to the opposite rail, spinning the umbrella around as he did it. He never turned around, and he never looked up at me. As far as I know, he never had any idea I was watching him act so odd. And I just watched him as he skipped along the railroad track, jumping from one rail to the other, spinning his umbrella. I watched until the tracks turned into the forest, and he was out of sight. I really wasn't sure what to make of that, but I thought about it quite a bit. I was looking forward to talking to my family the following morning and letting them know about the strange umbrella dancing man that I saw. I did, and they just all thought it was weird. Around noon, I was hanging with my mom while she was watching her soaps, and I played my Game Boy. Just then, there was a breaking news announcement. A body of a woman had been found by the railroad tracks right outside of town. She looked like she had been killed by various knife wounds. But the thing that chilled both my mom and myself was that a sharp-tipped umbrella was shoved through her chest. Number 3. Baseball. Playing baseball was my summer activity. Most of my friends weren't much for staying in and playing video games, or going to the pool, or anything like that. You give us a bat and a ball, and a glove, and some people to play with, and our summer was made. I played a lot that summer, the summer that I turned 13 years old. All of my buddies were also playing all summer. We never had a full team, though. How many of us there were fluctuated, depending upon a number of things. But generally, there were about 5 and 8 of us. Now, the only guy who was always there, no matter what, was Ricky. He never missed a game of baseball that I knew about. Even when I didn't make it, my friends that did would let me know he had been there. There was about a week in August of that year when it got way too hot for us to even go outside. The temperature was about 100 degrees and the humidity was awful. So we stayed in, played video games, watched movies, and ate lots and lots of pizza. It was about a week later, when the heat wave finally broke, that I decided to head down to the baseball diamond. A few of my buddies were there, but interestingly enough, Ricky wasn't. We waited. Gave him some time to show up and he didn't. We figured maybe he was still weathering the heat wave and expected him to show up the following day. But he didn't. Nor the next day. In fact, Ricky didn't show up to the baseball diamond for an entire week after the heat had turned to normal. Well, I was the brave one. I went over to Ricky's house to see why he hadn't been showing up. His mom answered the door, and she let us know that Ricky had been missing for over a week. He had gone to the baseball diamond on the first day of the heat wave, and he had never come home. The police had already searched the diamond, as well as searching the rest of the area in the town. No one had seen hide nor hair of Ricky since he had left the house that day. I was a bit confused that the police had never come to any of our houses to ask if we had seen him. I mean, if he had gone to the diamond that day, then it would make sense to ask his friends that also went to the diamond, right? But they didn't. Summer went. Ricky didn't return. School started, and Ricky didn't return. We went into Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it. Ricky didn't return. We were confident that we would never have the opportunity to see our friend again. We were only part right, however. 2 years after Ricky disappeared, some remains were found in an old oil barrel out by the dump. Testing was done, and it revealed that the body was Ricky. Months later, a man was arrested who confessed to the crime. Exactly what he did was heinous. He had been watching us occasionally play baseball, and his plan was to abduct one of us eventually. The opportunity just never came up until the first day of that heat wave. Ricky was the only person at the diamond, and there were no witnesses. So he attacked and abducted Ricky and kept him captive for about a week before murdering him in cold blood. All of us missed Ricky more than we could tell you. Beyond that, we had never even noticed that man hanging out around the baseball diamond. We had never known that he was watching us, just waiting for his moment to take one of us. How long had he been there, and what sick things went through his demented mind while he was there, waiting for his opportunity. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, I know I mentioned in an earlier video that I wouldn't talk about the GoFundMe anymore. However, since we are so very close to the goal, I decided to mention it one last time, in case there are some viewers here for the first time who might be interested in helping, whether it be donating or sharing the link on social media. If so, please look in the description for this video, which provides a link and explains what the GoFundMe is for. The money does not go to me, so I'm not asking for money myself. I must emphasize that. I'm simply helping a friend. I'm still looking for new channel art. This would be something that would replace the picture on the front page of my channel. Ever since I began doing this, that picture has been the hallway of an abandoned building with the word meow on it. I never meant to use that for more than a few weeks, and have just never gotten around to changing it. So I'm looking for something that might be more fitting for the channel itself. Something that encompasses the dark, scary story nature of this channel. For now, if you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please consider hitting the subscribe button below, or use the icon of Ichigo that will appear at the end of this closing. Leave me a comment to let me know what you thought of the video, and feel free to share it with someone you think might enjoy it. If you have a story you'd like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please send it to the address provided in the description. My only requirement is that it is original, meaning it has not been read on any other YouTube channel. In the meantime, please don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.